We're here for a funeral, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and ambies. That's right. A second Trump affiliate has been hit. Pamela Joe Bondi, an American attorney and politician who served, and I say served, as the 87th United States Attorney General from the year 2025 to the year 2026. A member of the Republican Party as the 37th Attorney General of Florida has now been fired. Ding dong. The witch is gone. Pamela Joe Bondi. R.I.P. BOZO. Pack Watch. You already know what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Throw a goddamn party. Spam to your heart's desire. That is now the second scalp of the Trump administration. That's right, it's the second scalp after Kirsty Bodacious Gnome. After Kirsty Gnome was kicked off and demoted from the Department of Homeland Security Secretary position, a second girl boss has been taken out by the Trump administration. And here we are, misogynistically celebrating another fascist being dethroned, only to be replaced by yet another fascist regardless. Bye-bye, Bondi. Bye-bye. Seismic shift, ladies and gentlemen. As we already played the crab rave earlier, you already know Pamela Joe Bondi is out as the Attorney General. Let's take a look.
Wake up at the White House. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been ousted.
Let's go now to CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. Kristen, tell us what you're learning. This is brand new.
Yeah, things are very fluid. They're moving very quickly, but I am told that Pam Bondi has been officially fired. She's out of her role. Now, where she goes next, that is a question mark. I was told in the meeting or in the conversation President Trump had with Bondi yesterday, he floated the idea of a judgeship as a potential landing place for Bondi. And in the interim period, while they are figuring out who is going to take over as Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche will step into that role. So he will be serving in the interim. Pam Bondi, though, is out. We had already reported that she was in Florida. We have been talking about for the last several hours how in the last week, President Trump had been calling allies, asking about firing her, who should replace her. It doesn't seem as though they have someone.
Perhaps the Dow is below 50K.
The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin.
And that might have played a role in the Pam Bondi ouster. Who knows? Turns out if you place a lot of emphasis on the Dow and then, your president decides to blow up the energy markets, you might be the first to go. I suspect that this is the next step, by the way. Trump weighs replacing Intel chief Tulsi Gabbard after she shielded Joe Kent, who undercut Trump's Iran war rationale. Someone's got to fall on a sword for every single thing that Donald Trump is messing up right now. I don't know who it will be for the economy. Someone's going to have to go for that too eventually. But it's clear that for the immigration stuff, the immigration panic, the anger and resentment that people felt, and the protest that they initiated, where they successfully purged ICE Gestapo thugs from Minneapolis, led the Trump administration to take the initiative and release a pressure valve. The first one was Greg Bovine Bovino, the manlet himself, and the second was Kirsty Gnome, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Pam Bondi is the sacrificial lamb for the Epstein files, because the Epstein files is yet another pressure point for the admin. A lot of people are frustrated about the Epstein files and the lack of revelation and the rollout of the Epstein files, the lack of transparency. Shouts out to Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie for leading that charge. They did a phenomenal job. I mean, these sorts of things don't just happen, right? Sometimes it's good for politicians to lean into the public pressure. Sometimes if the politicians don't do that, the people will create that public pressure, as they did in Minneapolis. But as I was saying, Pam Bondi's disastrous performance in front of Congress, in front of that congressional hearing, I think that all but secured her demise. Trump saw that and he thought, that's it, you're done. Now, she's in a horrible predicament regardless, because there's no one in that position that can successfully defend the Trump administration's lack of interest in identifying Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirators co-conspirators. Trump himself is obviously heavily involved with Jeffrey Epstein. So she's almost in the same situation that Israel defenders are when they have to defend the indefensible. So that's precisely what happened here. Donald Trump made her fall on the sword, a pressure valve. There's two other areas that Donald Trump has to release pressure on as well to make it seem like he's actually responsive to the needs of the public. One of them is going to be the war in Iran, and the other is going to be on inflation. So I don't know exactly how he's going to retaliate on that front, how he's going to release another pressure valve.
And again, Todd Blanche will step into that role as the Deputy Attorney General into an acting Attorney General role.
And Kristen, this now marks the second cabinet position that Trump has fired and now has sought a replacement for within the last month. What can you tell us about Blanche himself, his relationship to Trump? Obviously, he's going to be in the acting role until a new attorney general is put in place.
Well, look, Blanche and President Trump are incredibly close. He served as his personal attorney before taking this role as the deputy attorney.
I mean, yeah, Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi are both former defense attorneys for the president, a spectacular conflict of interest for any administration. And for Donald Trump, it's just another Tuesday, right? There is such an overwhelming force of corruption in this country, in this administration, that is so transparent, so in your face, that I think most people have given up on even addressing it, right? Where they're like, yeah, what are you going to do? I mean, it's unbelievable. I talked about it quite extensively in the beginning where I was like, this is ridiculous. The attorney general is a former defense attorney for Donald Trump. That's totally ridiculous. And the deputy attorney general, Todd Blanche, is also a former defense attorney for Donald Trump. And then I brought that back up when we were talking about the Ghislaine Maxwell situation, where former defense attorney for Donald Trump, current deputy attorney general Todd Blanche, went and had a private closed-door meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, the principal co-conspirator to the Epstein files, the only remaining alive person, basically the skeleton key for unlocking the secrets of the entire Epstein saga. Totally ridiculous. And they transported her to a much nicer facility after that conversation took place. Like, that was already an indication of where things were going to head. Of course they're going to do that, right? Of course the administration is going to do that, especially because there's no pushback. There's not enough pushback, rather. And for many people, for ordinary Americans who are too busy trying to make ends meet, they're frustrated with all the things that they're seeing, but they also have a hard time mounting pressure consistently because there's a barrage of corruption. It's this tornado of corrupt entities coming together to pick apart America's corpse, basically. You know, it's quite difficult to deal with, and in the absence of any sort of Democratic Party organizing and taking on a leadership role in identifying what these issues are and pushing and pulling when necessary, it comes across as a rudderless movement overall. We're not as disciplined as we could be. I mean, we're all trying our best, but I will say that the Democratic Party's lack of interest, with some very notable exceptions, of course, obviously Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie is a great example of one of those areas where they were able to lean into the public pressure campaign and they were able to successfully get this scalp. Like, I mean, they played a big role in this. You all did as well. This is an example that should be repeated in every single issue. If you're a politician, identify a problem and then do everything in your power to make political changes, you know, apply legislative pressure, hold congressional hearings, right?
As you know, from covering the Trump administration, you just never know whether it's real, whether there's just a faction inside the White House. They spend a lot of time knifing each other. And so we never know it's real until the president actually latches onto it. And so that's when it really became, it appears, a lot more real this week, when he was seeming to take action to try to find some names of some possible replacements.
It is interesting that it was Pam Bondi that ate the axe here, and I do think it's because he really did not like her performance, specifically in front of Congress. Because, like, how do you not cut Kash? I think Kash is one of the least popular figures in the admin, and he is largely seen as like the responsible figure for messing up the Charlie Kirk stuff. No one trusts him, right? He is not a trustworthy figure at all. I mean, I know he's loyal, but so is Pam Bondi, right? Kash is a jester, bro. He wrote a kiss-ass book for Trump. Okay, chat. Every single person that we're talking about in this administration is in that position that they're in currently because they've ass-kissed Donald Trump. There's not a single person that's in that position due to competence. They're all there for loyalty. That's always been the case since day one. We already know that. So it's actually surprising that Donald Trump would axe Pam Bondi, who is seemingly a little bit more competent than Kash Patel and just as loyal as Kash is. And I guess it's because of that televised congressional hearing. He really did not like that. What do the MAGA folks think about these types of things, these firings? Do they just believe that Trump is always right and he must have had a great reason to fire her? Yes. These past couple of days, we have perhaps been too focused on situation monitoring and not enough on how the MAGA movement is like coping with this stuff. I mean, they're a cult, so they're obviously going to always agree with Donald Trump first and foremost. Any kind of initiative that Trump takes, any kind of move that Trump makes like this, he's doing it with the base in mind. I do wonder how they communicate. I do wonder how they defend this kind of stuff. I guess for them, it's like, oh yeah, thank God he got rid of the perfidious Pam Bondi. She was the one who was rat in the admin. Maybe she was the reason why we couldn't get the Epstein files out on time in a timely manner. I don't know. I don't know. I guess like for some to develop a better appreciation, develop a better understanding, we got to do hogwatch, right? We haven't really done enough hogwatch as of late because I've been too busy covering the actual news and also simultaneously having to deal with hogs in our own ranks, right? Ostensibly left flank hogs, the centrist right-wing Democrats. So I don't know what the Asmongoy team is saying. Asmongoy reacts to Pam Bondi's national crash out. Yeah, I remember him saying this.
2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
Honestly, Donald's got to get rid of this bitch. He does. Like, one of the best things he could do is just say, like, listen, like, we tried, we did what we needed to do. You know, we thought that she'd be able to do it, and it turns out.
Do what? Like release the Epstein files while also simultaneously sheltering all the co-conspirators, including people like Donald Trump? I despise her, but I also despise Donald Trump. That's the morally consistent position, right? Because Pam Bondi is a mere expression of the desires of Trump. That's why she was the attorney general. So it just doesn't make sense that these guys will be like, yeah, Pam Bondi is like singularly responsible for not releasing the Epstein files. As a matter of fact, it's all entirely in her hands, right?
A choice. He knew her well, obviously. She was involved in the campaign from Florida. Wasn't inherently a political years ago, became very political. But she was not, she was chosen because she would be reputable and pretty easy to be confirmed after Matt Gaetz. So it's going to be fascinating to see who the president picks. Lee Zeldin is one of the leading contenders, a former member of Congress, different for a House member than a senator we've seen over the years here. So the confirmation process.
Why would anyone take this position? You know your ass is just going to get cooked in congressional hearings 24/7. There's no other alternative. You know, that's just, it is what it is. I mean, these guys are brown nosers. They get a tremendous amount of time in front of cameras. They elevate their platform. I don't think anyone is so stupid that they think Trump is not eventually going to use them as a sacrificial lamb when things get hot. Michael Pence was Donald Trump's vice president. When Donald Trump lost the election, he decided to lie and say the election was stolen from him. And they looked for a way to seize control over the government and deny the democratic outcomes in 2020. One of the things that they thought they could do is maybe identify this like totally procedural, ceremonial process that Mike Pence was overseeing. They wanted to pressure Mike Pence to stop the authorization of all the votes that were coming in. That's January 6th. Mike Pence was Donald Trump's vice president. Donald Trump literally goaded his fans to go and do an insurrection where they were demanding to assassinate his vice president. So if Donald Trump will demand or play a role in the attempted hanging of his vice president, what makes you think the attorney general is going to be free of such scrutiny? It's totally ridiculous. Donald Trump has a track record of consistently firing people whenever he wants to shift the blame away, shift the attention away from himself and his shortcomings. I think everyone that's in this administration is aware of that, right? They just think it'll be someone else holding the bag. Seems to me like Tulsi Gabbard might be next.